Yo, what is good everybody? Jay with us, back at it again with another video. This time it's gonna be a little bit more interesting. So this one, it's not gonna be directly a hero Izuku, but he's not gonna be a villain or a vigilante. I guess y'all just have to, stay tuned and find out. But you guys all saw the title. You guys all saw the thumbnail. I hope you guys didn't like. I hope you guys liked both of them. So I guess without further ado, let's get into what if Deku had a healing quirk. Our story starts off with a young boy who was born just as a normal person was, like me and you, and he didn't seem way too exceptional. He seemed like a happy child, and he seemed like he was going to do great things. And we see his childhood of his mother who has white hair, and his mother who has pink hair, always instilling the morals and ethics of being able to do the right thing and always helping people, because her quirk was to heal people, and she wanted her son to be able to know that while it might not be possible to save everyone, to those who you can save them well, and do it with a smile on your face. These morals were implemented into Izuku from a very young age, and he was he was born and raised with the fact of like wanting to help people, and he always wanted to be a hero. But and then as time goes on, he's about 4 years old, and all of a sudden, he sees a gl- he all of a sudden it's one day in kindergarten, and his best friend Katsuki Bakugo, was picking on some random kid for no reason, and he threw a massive explosion, and Deku's just like, and Izuku, the young boy, says, "Whoa, Bakugo, that's such a cool quirk." And then he says, "But you can't be hurting people. That's not good." And he's like, "Yeah, he's just a weakling. He doesn't have a quirk, just like you, Deku." And Izuku's just like, "Bakugo, that's not kind. You can't say stuff like that to people." And Bakugo's just like, "I don't care. I'll say whatever I want to." And then Bakugo just walks off, and Izuku looks down at the boy and he says, "It's okay, it's okay." And he starts comforting the little kid. And 4-year-old Izuku, while comforting his classmate, he sees a green, like bluish glow coming from his hands, and he puts his hands over the boy, and all of the boy's injuries are healed, like all of the minor bruises, scrapes, burns from the explosions, they are healed. And Izuku's like, "Whoa, what was that?" And the kid, he goes off and he tells the teacher about Bakugo, and the teacher puts Bakugo on timeout. Because I feel like if Izuku wasn't there to heal him, the kid wouldn't have said anything. But because Izuku was there, and Bakugo got so furious that he was put in a timeout, that he thought that it was actually Izuku that said something. So from that moment on, he wanted to make Izuku regret that moment. Obviously, whenever they grow up, it's not going to be that moment in particular, but Izuku then goes home and he's telling his mom the entire, like, about his day, and he's just smiling and he's being happy, and he's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, there was this like weird like green bluish glowing for my hands. It was really cool." And she's like, "Oh honey, you got your quirk, and it sounds like it's just like mine. Here, let's go to the doctor. I'll make an appointment." She calls the doctor and she makes an appointment for next Friday, we'll say, which is exactly 1 week. And Izuku, he goes back to school on Monday after a long weekend of playing with his mom, and even his father comes into town and stays a few days with them. And we figure out that his quirk is actually the ability to control threads, and I think this is gonna be really cool. So I want you guys to peep game and lock in. So a week goes by of Izuku just like figuring out his powers, and he's like, "Oh, that's so cool." And then the Friday finally rolls around, and they go to the quirk doctor, and the quirk doctor says, "Kid, you have such an amazing quirk. I'm very pleased to see that it was awakened at such an early age as well." And then he continues talking. He's like, "But you have to make sure you're only using it for good." And Izuku says, "Yes, sir. Now, what is my quirk? Tell me, tell me, tell me." Like being like a little kid and bouncing up and down in his chair. And the quirk doctor's like, "Well, from our little test that we had done to make sure to see what your quirk does, it seems like you have just a regular old healing quirk. However, the exceptional part about it is you can actually channel this healing and enhance certain medical items. See, for example, let's say we took a piece of bandage and you used your quirk on it and you wrapped somebody's wound. You'd be able to effectively like heal that wound and use it and just use the bandage to your aid for maybe something that was too big for just your hands to be able to reach. And he's like, whoa, that's so cool. And he's like, yeah, it seems like once your healing quirk is also controlled into it, you can also control said items. So, kid, it's an exceptional quirk. And I could see you becoming a very prominent doctor one day. And he's like, no, I want to be a hero, just like All Might. Ha 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 ha. And the doctor's like, I know with that quirk, you definitely probably could. And after this, Inko and Izuku just go back home, and Izuku's like, Mom, thank you for taking me to the quirk doctor, blah, 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 blah. Being a kid, but bouncing up and down, and he's like, can I watch the TV now? TV, TV, TV. And he goes like, okay. And then she turns on the TV for him, but an ad pops up, and he's like, oh, and he sees a few things that he actually thinks would looks really cool. And he sees Taekwondo, like he sees like MMA, and he's like, whoa, this is so cool. And he's like, Mom, can you come change this? And she's like, yeah, I thought you wanted to watch All Might though. And he's like, yeah, I do, but I just saw something that I really want to watch. And she's like, okay. And she clicks on an MMA video, and he's just obsessed with it. So for the next month or two, he's watching these MMA fights, and she's like, are you sure these aren't a little bit too much, Izu? And he's like, no, these are amazing. I love watching these. And after this, like the 2 months go by, and he's like, Mom, can you sign me up for that? Can you sign me up for some things? And she's like, you know what? Why not? And she's like, how about we do karate? And so Izuku's like, yeah, that'd be so much fun. And Izuku, he actually gets signed up for karate, and it's a karate dojo where quirks aren't necessarily allowed. Like people without physically enhanced quirks or people who are quirkless are able to go to. And he goes there, and he starts winning, but what like he's not winning directly. He's training, and he's training, and he's training, and 2 years go by, and finally the dojo says, hey, okay, Sugu, it's finally ready that you're time to start sparring because you weren't old enough for it. And he's like, oh yeah, that'd be so much fun. And like Izuku, he has not worked on his quirk at all. So the dojo that they're at, if you have a quirk, you're able to use it. You're just not able to use a physically enhancing quirk. Like if you had a strength-based quirk, you can use it. Like Hiroshima wouldn't be able to use his quirk. All Might wouldn't be able to use One for All. It's pretty simple. So Izuku, he starts sparring, and his first match, he gets slumped because he goes after the biggest kid in there, and he's not knocked out. But he's like, oh, that sucks. And the kid helps him up, and he's like, kid, what's your quirk? And he's like, oh, I have a healing quirk. And he's like, oh, that's so cool. You know, you might actually be able to do something. And he's like, no, I don't know if you could. And he's like, no, tell me. And he's like, what if you tried channeling that healing quirk into your body whenever you're fighting? So every punch that you got hit with, it seemed to not really phase you. Like you got hit with it, but immediately healed. And he's like, oh, that's so cool. And so for the next 4 years, Izuku's now 10, and he was working on this. And I would say that he would actually end up like doing really well in karate, and he would ask his mom if he could take other lessons. Like he would ask for boxing, Muay Thai, and Taekwondo. And the reason why I'm giving him all of this is because he doesn't have a strength-based quirk. Like, so I would say he goes and does all these things, and he's doing some training. So I would say at 10 years old, he'd be like the 10-year-old equivalent of like Deku 10-month training arc. Like at like 10 years old. That's what I would say he is. So after this, I could see Izuku like it only takes him like 2 years to excel in all three. And he's not stupid. Like he has a great battle IQ because he was in so many fights from even just like a young age. And I could see his like regular IQ being like off the charts as well because I mean I mean, he would just be fascinated with like doctorism, like he has a healing quirk. Like he wants like he's smart enough to know that he needs a backup plan if the hero thing doesn't work out. Because his healing quirk, while it's kind of flashy, it's not like crazy. Like it's not like All Might's quirk, you know. And that's what he thinks. And him knowing that his quirk isn't as flashy as like everyone else's, he dives a lot into studying and putting work into his own body, not so much into his quirk. And this, I feel like, whenever he hits about 13, he realizes like a year of him training his body, he's like, while my body's great, I still need to focus on my quirk as well, because like that's gonna be like such a driving point in his fighting style. Because like I said, he's gonna be able to control his healing. Like he's gonna be able to control it through like items, and he's going to control it through his own body. Just like if he just like he could control it through somebody else, except he has to be like touching you, or you have to be in his like field. And over time his field is going to grow, obviously, because you know, gotta have it. Kind of like, if you guys think about I think her name's Liz, I can't remember, I haven't watched Seven Deadly Sins in forever, but Liz, uh Elizabeth, whatever. How like in her angel thing form, I think she was able to heal like a bunch of people all at once. Like, I'm not gonna make his field like that big, but I'm gonna say about like USJ size whenever he like focuses, and it's not gonna be whenever they're at USJ. Absolutely not. Um, but after this, I would say like for until he's about 14, 15, so about 2-ish years, I think. I said he only works on his quirk, and he throws in like physical exercises as well, because since he doesn't, since he can't rely on his quirk too much because it's not physical, he would definitely need some sort of like way to actually defend himself, which is why he would do that, you know. And with that being said, finally, it's finally the day of the entrance exam to, or like, the teacher's like, oh, whatever, I know you all want to be heroes, and he throws all the papers in the air. I would say that Izuku would try and go to UA, except he wouldn't try and go for the hero course. He would try and go for Recovery Girl. So Bakugo's like, what? You want to go to UA? And he's like, Bakugo, calm your Pomeranian butt down, bro. I am literally just trying to go so I can learn how to heal, like, I can heal more effectively from Recovery Girl. And he's like, yeah, that's right. You better stay out of the way, you Deku. And he's just like, dude, I do not care. And I don't see Izuku being as timid in this one because he grew up in a gym, like in a dojo. And he knows how, and he knows exactly how Bakugo is. So I feel like he wouldn't really focus too much on it. So after this, I can see um, the 10 months of training. I could actually no. I think I should go into the Sludge Villain. Um, because Bakugo didn't hold Izuku back, Izuku wouldn't have gone down the tunnel at the time where the Sludge Villain was. So they would have never interacted. I feel like All Might would still have lost. Would still probably have lost the Sludge Villain, but I feel like uh, he would have landed on Bakugo, and Izuku would be home, and he would see it on the news, and he'd be worried about his friend, obviously. But All Might would eventually save him. A little bit after the original, though, like not as soon, because we do see that it was because of Izuku that All Might even jumped in the first place. So I can see after this, the 10 months of training happen, and Izuku, he's like looking up on the computer like ways that he can train, and while he's searching this up, he sees Dagobah Beach and how it's just like trash, and he's like, oh, that's not even that far from home, why don't I just do that for a while? So that's what he decides to go and do. And so he goes to Dagobah Beach, and he's like, all right, so I'm going to try and clear this whole beach by the end of the 10 months. And I would say, like, while he's working on it, I would say he gets about 5 months through, and he's like easily like, I'm gonna say like 75% done. If it took him five, yeah. So like 5 months and he's 75% done, and it's just like rapidly growing. It's like it's like he's getting faster and faster with it every single day, except it's like a steady rise. So yeah, but you guys would get what I'm saying. So finally, I would say at the 7 month mark, he would have the beach completely cleaned. But around the 5 month mark, All Might would see that there's a random kid just at the beach, like training, like punching trash, like with his bare fists and carrying it away. Like, and All Might would be like, okay, let me keep watching. And he would watch the kid, and it only took him 7 months to clean the entire beach, leaving no spots of trash left. And I could see All Might thinking this and be like, maybe he would be a good successor. And I would say he would be about like I would say Izuku would be about I would say I don't want to no, it wouldn't be that soon. I would say his build would be about like it would be crazy. Like that's all I'm gonna say. I don't really have like a good like time frame of where it would be, because it's like USJ would be way too soon. The like it like yeah, he just has a really good physique. Like we'll say like not hold on. I would say he looks a lot like Scarlet, or the Scarlet Spider. I think that's how you say his name. But that Spider-Man. I feel like that's a bit of like his muscularness, and dude, his costume is so fire. The Scarlet Spider-Man. But after this, I would say the 10 months of training, or no, 7 months goes by, and after this, he's just doing basic like speed training on the beach. So the next 3 months is him just doing like running up and down the beach as fast as he can, doing a weighted vest, and just training with his punches, kicks, and his just overall speed. And finally, the 10 months would be up, and I would say if he had one for all, he would be able to use about, I'm gonna say 35%. Actually, no, I'd give him 40. I would give him 40% one for all. And actually, no, not Scarlet Spider. He's gonna have like Thor from the MCU, like the built Thor, like Thor: Love and Thunder, I think. Like whenever he got all of his clothes knocked off by Zeus, like that physique. So yeah, if that if that gives you any more like imagery of what he would look like, I guess I should say. And after the 10 months, he finally decides to go to UA. Except he decides, instead of trying to take the entrance exam, he decides that he, like, after he takes the written portion, he decides that he goes and actually talks to Principal Nezu. And he's like, hey, are you the principal? Like, no, he would go and talk to President Mike, and he would be like, hey, so I wanted to see if I could talk to the principal. And President Mike would be like, oh yeah, but what for? And he'd be like, well, you see, I have a healing quirk, and I don't want to be a part of the hero course. Instead, I would actually like to talk to Recovery Girl and see if she would actually be willing to let me intern here. And President Mike would be like, that's an interesting offer, and I don't see why we couldn't make that happen. So President Mike, he walks out with Izuku, and he takes him to Principal Nezu, and Principal Nezu makes him a deal. If Izuku can make Nezu either lose, or if he can win, if Principal Nezu wins in any less than 10 moves in chess, then Izuku, if he wins in any moves less than 10, Izuku cannot come to UA and train under Recovery Girl. However, if he can win, or if he can stall him out long enough to not meet the 10 moves requirement, then he will allow, and he will get 3 tries. And Izuku says, oh yeah, of course, I love chess. And the first match, I would say Izuku would actually get him to about like 7 moves, and then he would lose, and he'd be like, what? That's not possible. And then the next he would be like, but I think I get it. So the next would actually be 9. And then on his third and final attempt, it is 11 moves, and Izuku is in a perfect place, and he checkmates Principal Nezu. And Principal Nezu says, I'm impressed. Surprised I didn't see that coming. And he was like, yeah, well, my chess style is a little bit weird. It's a little bit more aggressive, but, you know. And Nezu says, I can see that. That's why you lost in 7 and then 9 moves, right? And he's like, yeah, it leaves me too many openings. And he says, see? And Izuku starts thinking, and he's like, oh. And Izuku realizes, like, his fighting style is very aggressive, and it leaves a lot of openings in his defense. So Izuku thinks about all of his fights and all of the blows that he's had landed on him, and he just relies on his healing quirk way too much than he actually thought he did. So instead, what he decides to do, he says, thank you, Principal Nezu, and he goes and he sees Recovery Girl, and he asks her to let him intern with her. And she says, oh yeah, of course. Nezu told me you were coming down here, so I thought I might as well reserve a spot. And she's like, we only have 5 more people that are willing to do this, so, you know, we have 5 people, including yourself, that are going to be interning under me. So, classes start 2 weeks whenever the hero courses start. And Izuku says, perfect, I'll be glad to come. And she's like, okay. So after this, I could see the 2 weeks going by, and man, I cannot stop yawning. And Izuku thinking back about what Nezu was saying, and Izuku's training on the beach, and he closes off his style more, and he's shadow boxing, and he realizes that he's about to throw an aggressive punch, but he stops for a second. He doesn't hesitate, but he stops and he drops it, and he raises his guard a bit, and throws, instead of throwing a really raised right hook that's kind of slamming down, leaving his entire, or his right hook kind of slamming down, leaving his entire right side open, he instead drops his guard and slams down at the last second. Because it's like a boom. I don't know how to do it. I know how to do it in person, but okay, whatever. Izuku does it, and he's like, oh, I understand what he was saying now. So he starts putting that into practice with his punches, with his kicks, with his grappling. Like, his grappling, he needed it especially. And his Muay Thai with his knees and his elbows, and, like, even his wrist strikes. Like, he was just way too aggressive, and he found out, like, a way to fix this. 2 weeks go by, and I can actually see, he walks into the school, and he sees the 5 other kids, and they're not anything to really be named about. But he's talking to, he ends up talking to Recovery Girl, and they get to talking, and he's like, yeah, and he explains his quirk, and she's like, oh, that would be very useful. And all the other kids go, and it's just like run-of-the-mill healing quirks, like, if, we'll say one of them, what he can do is hold on, I'll just come up and make this off the top of my head. I would say one kid is only able to heal himself, one kid is only able to heal other people, one kid is revealed to actually be Recovery Girl's grandson, and, yeah, we'll say those are the 4 kids. Or that was 3, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. And then the 4th one, we'll say, was quirkless, but he just wanted to learn how to be a doctor, and that this was the best place. We'll just say that. And they're all, and, we'll say 2 of them are girls, the one who can heal other people, and the one who's quirkless. And then the one who can only heal himself, and then her grandson. So about like a month goes by, and it's actually revealed what they do in orientation. And it's honestly, if you guys haven't seen Assassination Classroom, I can just imagine it going something like that. Like how the teachers just stand up on the stage and they welcome everybody and blah 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 blah. But for some reason one of the classes is missing, but Izuku just waves it off. And he doesn't see Bakugo there, and he thinks, oh wow, did he really not make it? I'm kind of surprised. And so Recovery Girl says, okay kiddos, well, it's the hero course of 1A is actually going to be doing a little assessment today. They're going to be doing 2v2 battles in their training fields, and this is my first year offering a healing course, actually, a healing hero course, and so I would like to send the kid who can heal himself, other people, her grandson, and Izuku. She says, I'm going to send all 3 of you guys down there just in case anything happens. I don't think there will be, but it's just in case. So we're gonna say the 2v2s run a little bit differently, where three courses, like three groups run at once, and then the next three run at once. Because I think there was 9. Right? No. Yeah. No. That wouldn't work. We'll say two go at once, and then the next 2 go at once. So it'd be 8. I think there's 8 groups. Yeah, that works. Okay. So I can see Izuku going down there, like walking with his hands in his pockets, and he's just wearing some black sweatpants and a gray hoodie, and he's just walking down there, and his hoodie is like hiding his physique, so like nobody can really see it, and his sweatpants are baggy, so no one can see like how ripped and shredded he is. So Izuki, he walks down there, and he's like, "Oh, All Might, what's up, man?" And All Might's just like, "Oh, young Midoriya." And we actually get a flashback to whenever Izuku was going to Nezu's office, like they actually passed All Might, and he's like, "You, kiddo, what's your name?" And he's like, "Oh, my name's Izuku Midoriya." And he's like, "I've seen you training at Dagoba Beach, and might I add, you did a phenomenal job." And he says, "Oh yeah, thank you, sir." And he's obviously like freaking out. I'm not gonna do all that because I already said it all, and I don't want to have to re-say it. So All Might gives him an autograph and blah blah blah, and he's like, "Oh, young Midoriya," and he's like, "Oh, hey, All Might, it's been a minute," and he's like, "Yes, it has. How's your training been going along?" And they just talk for a bit, and Bakugo he's just like, "All Might, what are you do?" And he sees Izuku, and he just gets like his face just goes red, and he's like, "How did you make it a new way?" And Izuku's just like, "I told you, I'm not part of the hero course. I'm part of the healing course. They added it recently. Like it was like such a short notice. Like I barely even got in." And he's like, "Yeah, I bet, because you're just a Deku." And All Might is just like holding his tongue, and he's like, "Dude, if you saw him," and Bakugo is just like, "Let's show these people how weak you really are." And he's like, "Yeah, nah." And he just puts his hand up like King Baldwin, and is just like, "Yeah, no." And Bakugo is just like, "That's what I thought, you nerd." And it's finally Bakugo's turn to go up, and Bakugo, he goes up, and it's going to be... Who do I want to put instead of him? We're going to say Melissa. Melissa Shield. She goes in instead of Izuku. Or, like, she takes the spot of Izuku, she got one for all instead of Deku, and whenever Bakugo goes, and it's revealed that it's him and Ida versus Melissa, and it's Bakugo and Ida versus Melissa and Momo, we're gonna say. Yeah. And we're gonna say the fight starts off and everything's fine, but Bakugo's not really bum rushing either of them, except he does kind of go after Melissa a little bit, I feel like, because he realizes the resemblance between him and her and All Might's quirks. Man, I cannot speak today. I'm sorry, guys. But I can see that Izuku would think, he's taking it too far. Somebody has to step in. But he sees All Might just standing there, not really worried. So he stays and he just lets the fight play out. And eventually, Bakugo, like Momo ends up getting in the way of Bakugo's like a really powerful blast of Bakugo's. And he's like, "All Might, stop the match." And All Might says, "Yes, I can see that." Like, obviously. Like, no crap. Like, and I cannot. So All Might, he stops the match, and Izuku immediately rushes in, and he just like, he goes, whoo, whoo, bang! And he slams Bakugo across the head with a tornado kick, sending him through the concrete wall. And he just starts healing Momo, and he's like, are you okay? Is everything alright? Like, what's hurting? And she's like, everything. Help, please. Like, and he's like, yeah, of course. So he's just healing her, and he's like, "All Might, now, come down here." So All Might, he rushes down there, and he's like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna need you to take her to Recovery Girl. She's mostly healed now. It's about like 50% done, so it's enough for her. Like, she's not in stable enough condition to be able to get even more hurt whenever she's moved. But I'm gonna need you to make sure Bakugo doesn't come after me, because what I just did to him, he's about to." And all everyone hears is, "Deku!" And he's like, "Yep, All Might, this is your sign." He picks up Momo, and he's like, "Okay, it's gonna be okay." and he just starts running like as fast as he can, like, and he's sprinting like really fast, and he gets to Recovery Girl, and he's like, Recovery Girl, here, and he lays Momo on the table, or on the table, not table, but you guys know what I'm saying. And Recovery Girl heals her to the best of her ability, but she realizes that it's not enough. Like, the blast was like bad, and he's like, okay, I'll take care of it. So what he does is he continues healing, and he actually amps up his healing power like tenfold. And the good thing about his healing, in opposition to Recovery Girls, it doesn't require stamina of the person who's being healed. It requires stamina of the actual user. So Izuku, he's like tenfolding his healing, and Momo finally, she's fully healed, and she's like stirring in her sleep, and she's like, thank you, and then she falls back asleep. And then the next day she goes back, and then the next day classes happen again, and she comes to Recovery Girl, and she says, hey, where was that boy with pink hair in Recovery Girl? And he peeks his head around the corner, and he's like, oh, it's you, how you feeling? And she's like, thank you so much, I remember everything, like, I just wanted to come here and say thank you. And she has a blush on her face. And that is where our story ends. Thank you all so much for watching What If Deku Had a Healing Quirk, Part 1. I hope you guys enjoyed Part 1. Sorry if it seemed like really rushed, or like if I was like pausing a lot. Like, I don't know why, like partially through this I just could not like breathe. Like, it was like so hard for me to get words out. But if you guys enjoyed this, like, subscribe, comment down below what you guys want me to do in the future. And yeah, with that being said, I hope you guys have a wonderful day, night, and yeah, peace out.